A UFO the size of a football field and escaping something in the woods are just two of the stories we're going to read today. What's up, glitches? I'm Auntie Matrix, and people send me their weird, unexplainable true stories to this email address, and I share those with you. I have thousands of unread emails in my inbox from people about things like glitches in the Matrix, aliens, dreams, and the paranormal. So if you're into that kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Sit back, grab a snack, and let's get weird. Alternate universe socks saved me? Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I love your videos. Here's my story. One morning, I noticed a pair of socks on my dresser that I had never seen before. The strange thing was, I had a few pairs of socks that were almost identical, but they were all light gray. This particular pair was dark blue, but it didn't seem like they had been accidentally stained in the wash or anything because the color was even and the label on the socks was crisp white, just like on the gray ones. Anyway, I remember looking at them and then asking my husband and stepdaughter if the socks were theirs. They both said no. I actually remember joking that they were alternate universe socks, LOL. The whole exchange couldn't have taken longer than 10 to 15 seconds. This is important. Right after that, I was driving to Walmart. What happened next still gives me chills. As I was approaching the traffic light, this black BMW turned and then started spinning out uncontrollably right towards me. I'm not exaggerating. This car came within inches of crashing right into me before the other driver slammed on the brakes. I was in complete shock. I rolled down the window to ask the other driver if they were okay, but all they did was speed away. Ew. I think it may have been a drunk driver. I didn't get their tag number, but I called the non-emergency police right after and reported them for reckless driving. I know it sounds crazy, but I can't help but think that those dark socks showed up from an alternate timeline to distract me just long enough so that the car didn't crash into me. Had I left seconds before I did, it would have been a direct impact, I think. I've gotten really hurt. I'll say this, it definitely changed my perspective about losing socks. Now I chalk it up to the universe saving my ass in a different timeline. I 100% believe this, 100%. I feel like things like this happen all the time. It's always like the little things that go wrong. You spill your coffee or you miss the bus or whatever it is, and it was for a reason. I think they say, did you still have the socks after that? McGlitch. I'm very interested to see what this is. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi! First of all, I love your videos and I'm a huge fan. I've been waiting to share one of my stories. Although I have multiple ones, this one is by far the best. Anyway, back in 2022, I was working employed as a night shift security guard. The whole day before my shift had been super bizarre. I was super cranky and just felt way off. I didn't eat dinner at home because I slept too late, so I decided to grab something from the drive-thru at McDonald's before going to work. I looked over at the restaurant and saw a long line of cars. Instantly, I was annoyed. I drove around, placed my order, and when I got to the window, the whole line of cars that was wrapped around the building was gone. It wasn't any more than a minute. There was no way for them to get every single car through that line that fast. There was one truck in front of me that wouldn't pull forward. I honked and I honked. Finally, I just went around him and went to the second window. The young girl at the window told me that it was unnecessary to honk and they were trying to prepare food as quickly as they could. I advised her that I wasn't honking at the crew, but I was honking at the truck in the drive-thru. I apologized and told her I was having a bad day and that I was annoyed with the big line of cars and that truck that was ahead of me. The girl looked so confused as I said this. She told me that they haven't had a car in almost 3 hours prior to me coming. I said, wasn't there just a truck here and a big line of cars? I honestly thought that she was messing with me, but she was so serious. I looked in my rearview mirror and the truck was gone. Where did it go? I didn't see it drive off anywhere. I swear it was there. To this day, it freaks me out bad. That's crazy. I feel like you switched into like another timeline for a minute. But did you do it twice? Did you like hop into another timeline 2 times? Because you saw the line of cars, you ran around. Maybe you saw the line of cars and you were like, oh my God, this is so annoying. I wish there weren't cars. I'm having a bad day. And the universe was like, okay. And they hopped you into like a little timeline where there was no cars, but then there was the truck. And then you were like, oh my God, this fucking truck. And then the truck went away. I don't know, man. I have no idea, but what a McGlitch. If you hear it, no, you don't. Hi, Auntie. Hi. This is a recent event that happened to me and my friend. This involves a slin-whacker. Do not try to pronounce it properly, or a mimic. I'm not 100% sure if it is an SW, but from everything else that I have researched, it seems the most likely candidate. And through this research and trying to find people with similar encounters, I found your channel. I, 23, and my friend Jay, 24, live in the same apartment complex. We often drink together and just mess around. Our apartment complex is directly next to a heavily wooded area. Jay has 2 dogs, and we often need to take them out to use the restroom. About 2 weeks ago, ago, we had been drinking and her dogs needed takeout. We decided while outside, it sounded like the dogs needed to go eat takeout food. That was confusing. They needed to go out. Okay. We decided while outside that we should go on a small walk in the woods. There's a path that leads through it, which comes out on the other side of the apartment complex, so we thought that this was a great idea to help sobering up when the time came. We went back inside and finished our drinks while we watched some movies. At one point, we realized that both of our phones were dead. I hadn't thought anything of it at the time, just that I forgot to charge it before I came over. We looked for Jay's charger to plug the phones in, but we could only find one. We just sort of brushed it off and she let me plug my phone in first so that it could be charged for when it was time for me to go home and get ready for work, as I was planning on staying the night. Not too long after that, we decided that it was time for our walk to help us sober up. One problem, it was the middle of the night. Her phone was dead, my phone was at only 20%, and it would take us over an hour to walk the trail. Instead of being responsible adults and just waiting for the phone to charge more before going out, we decided that we would just use a flashlight. Only one flashlight, because of course, nothing's going to happen that might separate us on the path where we might need more than one flashlight. Can you hear my sarcasm? We headed out at around 1 a.m., just joking around and goofing off as we walked. Around a half an hour in, Jay saw what she thought was another path that veered off to the left, farther away from the apartments. She got excited and started heading towards it, but I grabbed her arm. Something didn't feel right. I had never seen this path before, and I walk it all the time in the morning to help me get myself ready for the day on the weekends. I told her that I didn't think it was a good idea to go that way, but she begged me to take the path with her, saying that it led to nowhere, or something happened, we could just follow it back to the main trail. I still felt like it was a bad idea, but I figured that she was right. We could always just follow the trail back the way we came. We took the path and walked for quite a while. Nothing out of the ordinary had happened other than the path turning from pavement to gravel, and then just a compact dirt, but the path was still clear. It calmed my nerves a bit knowing that other people frequented the path enough to allow us to have a clear heading. We ended up at a stream. It was quiet and peaceful, so we took some time to just sit and listen to all the noises around us. Jay even turned off the flashlight so that we could be in the moment and just enjoy nature surrounding us. After a few minutes, I heard something odd that sobered me up immediately. It sounded like someone entering the stream. Not an animal, a person. And it wasn't a loud splash of someone jumping in, more like someone slowly stepping into it so that they wouldn't be heard. I slowly got up from my spot and I went to Jay as quietly as I could and told her that we needed to leave. Hold on, you guys were not next to each other? It's bad enough we're in the woods down a path we've never been before, in the middle of the fucking night, no cell phones, turned off your flashlights, and you're separated? What are you doing? She loudly said, but it's so pretty, I want to stay a little longer. I covered her mouth and basically pressed my mouth against her ear and whispered that there was someone in the water and we needed to leave now. She got the message and stood up slowly while I helped pull her to her feet. She went to turn the flashlight on, but I grabbed it from her and shook my head. Just because you can't see beyond the light of the flashlight doesn't mean that whatever is beyond it can't see you. I had us both stand still for a moment so I could listen for the sound again and figure out where it was coming from so we could go in the opposite direction. I could hear the person wading quietly through the water getting closer to us. I held Jay's hand tightly and started to walk away from it, making sure that we were still facing them. I didn't want us to turn our backs and them attack us. I remembered where the path was, so I made sure we were heading towards it, checking over my shoulder every now and again to make sure I wasn't going to run into anything or trip over something. The moonlight was just bright enough that I could make out where the path was. Once I felt that we were far enough away, I turned us around and handed the flashlight back to Jay. She turned it on to light the way, and I swear my heart fell out of my ass. The path was gone. What? I had just checked over my shoulder 2 seconds before to make sure we were still on it, and it disappeared. Jay started to panic and asked where we were and how to get back. I was just as clueless as her, but I tried to stay calm. That calmness was short-lived. We heard what sounded like a woman crying out for help off to our left. Jay immediately turned to the sound and tried to walk towards it, but once again, I grabbed her arm. She looked at me scared and confused and said something along the lines of, we have to help her. She might know how to get out of here. Oh my God, girl, no. I said we didn't need to help, that there was no one there and that we just needed to keep moving. The scream for help came again, but this time louder, closer. Jay tried to say something like, don't be so mean, you can hear it too. I heard it. I grabbed her firmly by the shoulders, made her look me in the eyes and yelled, no, you didn't. She seemed to realize what I was trying to say, and a new wave of panic started to show itself in her face. We heard another cry along with sounds of twigs snapping somewhere nearby. I grabbed her hand and started walking again. It didn't need to know that we were scared. Important thing to know about SWs and Wendigos, again, do not pronounce it properly. Do not, under any circumstances, run. Prey runs. Do not be prey. Jay forgot this. We heard another cry, much closer this time, the sound of large branches snapping, and Jay ran. She attempts to pull me along, but as I was not expecting her to run, I tripped over my own feet. I fell, landing pretty hard on the ground, and the wind was knocked out of me. As I tried to catch my breath, Jay kept running. She kept running until I could no longer see or hear her. I got back to my feet and started walking in the direction that Jay had gone, hoping that maybe her sense of panic was making her internal compass work enough to get her home safely. All I knew was that I needed to keep the moon to my back and I would make it back to the main trail. I heard another cry. This one was further away from me and seemed to be coming in front of me. It was following Jay. I tried to pick up my pace a bit, praying to any god that would listen that Jay would stop running or make it home safely. And then I heard my own voice call out for help. Oh my God, I have so many chills. It called out directly to Jay for help. Jay called back out to it. I could faintly see her flashlight in the distance and went towards her. She was spinning around in slow circles, calling out to me, and the thing was calling back to her in my voice for help. I got closer and closer to her and hoped that I would get to her before it did. I saw something large pass in front of the light from the flashlight as it called out to her again. It was circling her. I ended up yelling to Jay. I yelled that it wasn't me and she needed to move. She couldn't hear me. I cried out for help again as I got close enough to make out Jay's panicking features. I once again yelled that it wasn't me and she needed to get out of there. She heard me this time and started running again. There was a few minutes of silence as she was once again out of my sight and I kept walking. I heard what sounded like Jay crying out for help now. I kept walking. The calls kept getting closer and I just kept telling myself that it wasn't Jay and that I needed to keep moving. I finally made it back to the main trail, but I didn't take it. I walked straight across to the next wooded section. Taking the path meant that I would be in there for at least another half hour, if not longer, depending on where I had come out of, whereas cutting through the wooded section would cut the time down significantly. I had hoped that Jay had thought the same, even in her worried state. I made it through the wooded section, still hearing the thing cry out and into the parking lot of our apartment complex. As I got halfway across, heading towards Jay's apartment, Jay came running out of the trail. Thank God! She stopped short of me and shined the flashlight right at me, demanding to know if it was actually me. She asked me to prove it by telling her about our inside joke and then asked how I beat her to the parking lot. I answered both questions and she came running to me and hugged me tight while crying. We made it up to her apartment where she told me that she had seen me on the trail. She said that I had grabbed her arm as before, but it was much tighter than I had ever had done, and said that we were fine and we didn't need to worry anymore. Oh my God. But she knows me and she knew that the way I said it was all wrong. She wasn't completely convinced it wasn't me until she looked at my hand and saw that my nails weren't painted black. She hit whatever it was with the flashlight and ran. I went back out to the trail on my own the weekend after during the day and did not see that side trail again. I've asked a few other people about it and they said that they haven't seen any side trails or anything that could even be mistaken for another trail. One man did say that we went out for a night walk once and thought he heard someone call out for help, but he quickly cut through the smaller wooded area to get back just as quickly as I had. I will not be going back on that trail day or night, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Oh my God. That was a terrifying story. I am so glad that you guys are okay. And I'm so glad that you were smart enough to know if you heard something, no, you didn't, not to run, not to act panicked, because like literally, if it wasn't for you, you guys would have been dead. I feel like you guys would have been dead. Because Jay, what's her face over here, wanted to go explore the trail, the side trail, wanted to go towards the voice, wanted to do all the things. Thank God that you were smart. Oh my God. What the fuck is going on? That's literally the name of this one. I'm jumping right into this. What the fuck is going on? I'm saying this in a fascinated, good way, I think. I've written it before, so you have heard my stories. You also know that I have really been missing my ma. She was diagnosed with stage 4+ cancer on Christmas Day. Well, she must have heard because she started about 2 weeks ago, me watching TikTok on people stating that they were getting signs of loved ones they have lost. I mumbled half-heartedly, "I want a sign, ma," sighed and promptly forgot about it until I found my angel shirt that I had forgotten that I had. I smiled and thought, nice, ma. A couple of days later, after the second mother of a coworker passed, and a stepdad of another coworker, a conversation was started about wishing that we could visit our relatives, talk with them for an hour on the phone in heaven, and what would we say? Side note here, our office requires a key card to get into, and I had mine in my mouth because my hands were full with Christmas decorations for the day. I was trying to bring some smiles, at least for the moment. A coworker happened to arrive at the same time and beat me to opening the door with hers. So I walked to my desk, sat everything down, and took the key card from my mouth and threw it into my purse, or so I thought. Because at lunch, when I had to run to get something to eat, I couldn't find it. I dumped out my purse, had my friend at work look in my purse and at my purse contents too. We also looked in all my desk drawers and had everyone in the office help me look for it around the office. I had not left my desk since I had arrived to work, so I don't know how far I could have gotten. I have never lost one before, not even my military ID card in 37 years. Well, I thought I had now. It just wasn't found. And I was issued a new one. This one had an orange mark on the back with the promise that if it was found, I would turn it in. Anyway, we went back to talking about our family members, about how some had seen them after they passed, some had been given signs, and one coworker's grandkid talked to her papa that she never met. At that moment, I really wanted a sign, and in front of my coworkers, I asked, "Ma, I know I've said not to see spirits, so I'm guessing that includes in my dreams, but I really need to know that you're okay." And no, my coworkers didn't even bat an eye. They already think I'm crazy. LOL. Fast forward to Christmas, my husband gave me a new purse. I transferred everything from my old one into my new one, but unfortunately still no key card. Christmas night, I was pulling things out to wear to work and halfway organizing my earrings. I had a pile of solo earrings where the mate had been lost. The one in particular I picked up, my husband had bought me that necklace to match. I had not seen the mate to the earring in about 6 years. A black rhinestone heart with wings. I waffled on throwing it out, but just couldn't, so I put it down. The next morning, I got up and was getting ready for work. On my stand, surrounded by a bunch of mismatched earrings, were both black rhinestone earrings together. I picked them up and walked to my husband almost in tears. He looked at me and said, "Oh, hey, where did you find that?" I looked at him stunned. "I thought you found it." Needless to say, neither of us did, and we don't know where it came from. Half dazed, I drove to work, parked, and was walking up to my office. I reached into my new purse and pulled out my key card, only it had no orange mark on the back. No way. I stopped, put my hand back in my purse, and pulled out a second key card. This one had the orange mark on the back. Yep, I had both cards, the original and the reissued one. There was no way. That was a new purse. Where did it come from? Okay, I'm a believer. Got it, Ma. You are okay. The angel shirt, Ma's an angel. The rhinestone heart earring, well, it matches the tattoo that I have that represents my mom. And the key card, she got into heaven and she watches me. That's my plan. Here is a picture of her tattoo, and here are the earrings. Oh, I love stories where loved ones give us signs or visit us. I'm so happy that your Ma came through for you. Thank you so much for sharing. Flesh Pedestrian. For this story, I must tell you that I live in Appalachia. I live in a heavily wooded area, but there are many trees around. My boyfriend and I decided to go to the lake to spend some time alone together and watch a movie in his car since it was cold outside. We had our fun and it was dark by the time we were on our way out of the lake. The drive to the lake is wooded, but there are many houses around. My boyfriend was driving and I had my hand on his thigh. I was looking out the windshield, as was he, and we just drove along. The sudden cars that would pop out would kill my astigmatism. Since there are many deer in the area, basically no matter where you are, I was helping watch for them. So on our way back, my boyfriend brought up seeing weird creatures, aka flesh pedestrians. We were talking about how he sees this one deer in his way home from work in the same spot. I remember he brought up to me how to tell if something is wrong with it. Usually it's just one thing that is off that sends you spiraling into thinking, wow, something is wrong with that deer. We both went quiet and I remember calling out to deer on my side of the road, the right side. My boyfriend slows the car as the deer passes across the road. The deer watched us the whole time and continued watching us once it got to the other side. There was a strange feeling in my gut. I remember my boyfriend tensed up and he said, "Did you notice anything wrong with that deer?" I looked over to him and then looked back to the windshield. "Yes," I replied. I opened my mouth to speak about it, but he quickly shushed me. "Don't talk about it. Don't look back. We will talk about it when we get to McDonald's." McDonald's was back in civilization with lights and cars and people. We pulled into McDonald's and I had to run to the bathroom. I ran in and my boyfriend stayed out, so I got our food and brought it back to the car. When I got back, my boyfriend told me that he saw something wrong with the head and the eyes. I saw something wrong with the neck. We both easily stopped talking about it. I remember he dropped me off and I began walking to my house. From the driveway, I have to walk through the yard to a gate, cross the short side of the yard, get to my porch, and get inside. I ran inside. Ran, I tell you. I didn't look back to my boyfriend's car because it felt like someone or something was watching me. I didn't go back outside that night. This is an interesting one because you don't normally hear people talking about the fact that some of these things look like different animals, like the deer head. I'm pretty sure that the deer is more related to a Wendigo, but I'm not sure. But I wish you would have went into more detail about what was wrong. What exactly was wrong with it? What looked weird? I'm very interested. I still don't understand what I saw 10 years later. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I'm not even really sure how to tell this story, but here goes. The summer after my freshman year of college, I didn't want to move back home to Minnesota because most of my friends lived in or near Chicago where I went to school. My friend's mom graciously invited me to live with them over the summer. On the first day, my friend's mom explained to me that they have a shrine to a spirit that they worship that protects the house and their family who lives in it. Now that I lived there, I had to introduce myself to it so that it knew that I was not a threat to the family. She told me that the spirit comes to each member of the family in different forms, sometimes as an old man, an old woman, or a young child, depending on who they were interacting with. Because of this, it required different offerings: cake and coffee for the old woman, cigars for the old man, etc. I was a little freaked out, but I wanted to be open-minded and respectful. It's also important to note that my friend's stepdad was Guatemalan and that he said that his spirit was a traditional protection spirit in his culture. I haven't been able to find anything on the internet. I went to his parents' bedroom in the basement, and in their closet was lit candles, food, dollar bills, etc. My stomach sank. I was not a religious person, and I didn't have a background in South American spirituality, but this felt like something sinister. Regardless, I introduced myself to it, and we went on about our day. My friend and I shared a bedroom but had separate beds. As I was unpacking, he went downstairs to the kitchen to have a snack and hang out with his mom. I continued unpacking and organizing. I made both our beds, vacuumed, and put all of our clothes from our dorms in the closet, dressers, etc. I say this because there was no part of that room that I didn't clean or organize. As I finished making the bed, I turned around and saw a book laid open on my friend's bed. At first, I didn't think much of it. I must have just left one out. Upon closer inspection, though, it was not just any book. It was a sign language instruction book, and it looked very familiar. I picked up the book and instantly went blank when I saw what page it was open to. Cake and coffee. Stop. I flipped to the front and it had my sister's name written in the front. It was her textbook from years ago in school. How the hell did it get here from my mom's house? I definitely didn't take it with me. I dropped the book on the bed and screamed. My friend and his mom ran up the stairs and into our room asking what happened. I showed them the book and started crying. Neither of them said anything. I instantly thought that this was a mean prank, but they both were nowhere near our bedroom as I heard them talking in the kitchen downstairs, and the three of us were the only ones in the house at the time. My friend started crying too, scared about what he was seeing. I kept insisting that this was a prank that they had played, but they were very serious when telling me that they don't joke about this spirit. His mom was calmer, telling me, "It's okay, it's asking you for an offering, they're just trying to make contact." I was petrified. She insisted we make coffee and cut a piece of cake, and we offered it to the shrine in their bedroom. From that point on, I told it out loud when I was alone one day that I respect it and the family protects it, but I don't want to hear from them again. I didn't for the rest of the summer. Fast forward about 6 years, I had moved back to Minneapolis and was getting my hair done on a random summer day. I was chatting with my stylist and she was talking about how she was a medium and a ghost seeker as her side gig. I was super curious and she had some pretty incredible stories. I then brought up my experience and her face went a bit funny. She asked me to explain to her one more time about what I had to do, and she stopped doing my hair and just looked at me and said, "Honey, I think their family was worshiping a demon." What? Once again, my stomach sank. I told her I always felt like something was off, and she agreed that that was not a light spirit. I told her about how my friend and his other friend would discuss their protective spirits and all the things that they do to intruders, meaning unkind people or just people the spirits didn't like. She explained to me, a spirit novice, that good spirits are not as violent as these spirits had been towards outsiders, and that it may still be following me to this day. I didn't want a relationship with this being. She then told me to close my eyes and picture a stop sign circling around my whole body, and this would signal a lack of willingness to interact with spirit. She said it doesn't always work with dark ones, but it was worth a shot. I have not had an experience since and still close my eyes and picture that sign periodically. It's been 10 years since living there, and I still can't explain what happened. Was I imagining it? But then I remember the rest of the day, and it was very real. The rest of the summer, I was scared to interact with it and remember feeling on edge in that house, especially if I was alone. Love you and your videos. Oh my God, that was I have never heard that before. I have never heard of there's a spirit that we worship, it protects the house. I understand, like I've heard of, asking for protection and things like that, but I've never heard of we have a spirit in this house that protects us and our family, and you need to give it offerings at the altar so it doesn't harm you. That's kind of scary. Do you guys think it was a demon? Do you think they were worshiping a demon? I'm trapped in this life. Hello, Jessica. Hi. I've lived through this life 6 times now, and I remember everything. I'm writing this to you one Thursday, December 21st, 2023. I'm due to die in 2 years to the day. No matter what I do, I always die on Sunday, December 21st, 2025 for some reason or another, except for the last time. The first time was due to illness, the second a car crash, the third drowning, the fourth a house fire, and the fifth an earthquake. The sixth, however, I tried to tell people about it, tried to find anyone else that remembered the previous times that they lived this life. I started to find people that talked about remembering past lives or that they had felt that they had already been through this life, and I was hunted down and killed sooner than my set time. Someone is trying to keep me from sharing the information. I'm not sure if I'm jumping timelines when I die or if I'm stuck in a loop of the same timeline. All I know is that I remember each and every family I have had, each and every face of my children, and the pain of each and every time that I have died. I've isolated myself in an underground bunker and have been doing as much research as I can to find anyone else like me, anyone that knows anything about this. While YouTube might not be the most reliable source to find this information, I'm trying to find any hope that I can. I came across your channel and I'm hoping that by sharing this with you, it may reach others just like me so that they know that they are not alone. Perhaps it's just me, but I hope that it isn't. I hope to be able to tell you in 2 years that I have escaped my cycle and I'm able to live happily and peacefully. What? Even? What? Okay, we've heard the stories about people who remember their past lives. We've heard the stories about people who are like literally living multiple lives at the same time, like one in their dream life, like they go to sleep and they're living a completely different life. We've heard about people who have went into dreams and they're stuck there and this is the other life and they can't get back, or vice versa. I have not heard of someone who remembers this life over and over and over again. So since you said that you can remember each and every family that you've had and the face of your children and that you've died different ways, I'm going to say that it's not the same exact life, right? Because if there are different people in your life, it's not the same exact life you've just lived before. But you say that you always die on Sunday, December 21st, 2025. So that means you're living in the same time period of this life over and over again. Because a lot of people that remember their past lives, they're from like the past. And I say the past, and I know that time is not actually real or linear, and you can be born and living whatever life you're living. So for some reason, you are living in the same time, multiple times. But now, is that a thing? Or are you living in multiple timelines? Like maybe you're dying in one timeline and then you're born the same time period in a very similar timeline. My mind is like, I have not heard of anyone with this particular situation. You know, reading these stories and having people talk in the comments has really brought a lot of people together who have had similar experiences. So I'm really hoping, is there anyone out there that is experiencing this? This is crazy. Thank you so much for sharing. Holy smokes. My mother is haunting me and I am desperate to stop her. Hey, love all you glitches. Hi. You guys have opened up a whole new world for me and I feel like I've got friends finally. I cannot thank you enough. I need some help and the backstory is possibly triggering for abuse of a child, so please do not read or listen if you are not capable. My mother was a prescription pill addict for longer than I can remember, and this turned her into a shell of a human being and a monster that loomed over my life. She went into these fugue states when she was intoxicated and would wander and cause sometimes life-threatening chaos, like turning the stove or oven on without food cooking and then going back to bed. Sometimes she would open the front door and either do something horrible outside or just leave it open with indoor pets, young kids, you get it. All of this is important later. She was abusive in every way you can think of, including Munchausen's by proxy. She would use her 5 kids to get more medicine in probably more ways than you want to know about. Sending you so much love. After 24 years of this, I'll fast forward to when I cut her off because she punched my husband after accusing me of stealing her pills, and crazy story short, my parents were both arrested and I had a fractured skull and amnesia of that night. I still only know what I've been told and by the scars on my body. Oh my God. On Memorial Day in 2021, it was 2020 in my original timeline, by the way. In your original timeline, she literally just laid down right behind my brother while he was playing video games and just died. What? My brother is forever traumatized by knowing she was right behind him and then even tried to revive her once he realized this was really it. My dad refused an autopsy, but we all know what killed her. I was the only one who took charge and put together a service. Barely anyone even showed up to her funeral, and the speech I was forced to write was all lies, but whatever. Cut to my dad and brother moved out of that house a few months later and left a disgusting mess that my sister would have to pay for. Think rotten food and brown mystery goo meets hoarder's level of filth. My sister and her husband hired my husband and I to clean the place because they'd moved to Cali already, and it took me 2 entire days of nonstop going ham on this place. I did so well they got their full deposit back, but that's just me tooting my own horn and irrelevant. While cleaning, the air was so heavy and the aura inside the home was dark gray and a lavender purple, which didn't sit well on my chest, and my forehead was buzzing. But my husband and I fairly quietly just worked side by side these 2 days. Finally, as we were packing up to be finished, my husband looks at me and said, "Don't think I'm crazy. I don't think she knows she's dead," and walked outside. Then it clicked. Those fugue states she would go into, she was in a place between life and death all those times during her life. How would she know that this is different? I looked into the living room as I left and I said, "Mother, you are dead. You finally killed yourself and you need to go." The room suddenly felt cold in the middle of summer in the Valley of the Sun in Arizona. Hubs came back in and asked if I'd blasted the AC as a joke or something. I felt the blood leave my face and felt dizzy and sick. I told him what happened and he took me outside of the house and held me for a few minutes. We left and I sobbed in the car for the 2-hour drive home listening to Never Going Back Again by Fleetwood Mac on repeat with my husband holding my hand the entire ride. Here we are at the end of 2023, and I've been having this reoccurring dream that's vivid but not lucid, where we're in a group of people, but she's always just creeping through the crowd and whichever environment we're in, and never really a part of what's going on around her. The scene and people changing every dream, but it always comes down to her freezing up like a curled statue. And the best way I can describe it is she just starts melting like candle wax. Everyone just continues on with whatever is happening, and I'm screaming that she's stuck and needs help. I either get ignored or told that I'm overreacting and that she's fine. She comes to, and the cycle repeats until I wake up. Listen, I've analyzed the ever-living fuck out of this alone and with my therapist. I get it for what it is, but this isn't the only thing. I had shared a story a while back that there's a shadow in my apartment that watches my kids and I and causes my husband sleep paralysis, but it's become my stove and oven being left on when no one even cooked that day. 3 weeks ago, my front door that's always locked was wide open for no reason. No sign of entry, and the cops think that my autistic 6-year-old did it, but she can't work that deadbolt for anything. We ended up adding extra door security and so far have not had any more instances with that. Random things being thrown in a way that terrifies my inner child because that's how my mother would behave in a fit of rage before she'd hurt me. And the one time I've seen the thing, it moved like how she does in my dream, and I felt the same freezing, panic, and nausea that I do in the dream. I want to get a reading from a medium or something, but I've been hurt so much in my life that I don't know where to start except to maybe come to you guys and see if you know what I can do. Is this her or something else? I cleanse and use my crystals, bells, and herbs, but this won't go away. I'm so sorry this was so long and not a heck of a lot of paranormal. I really feel like this is my mother though, and I need you guys to understand why I need her to go away so desperately. I love you, Auntie, and all of you beautiful weirdos who have become so dear to me. We love you too. Obviously, I'm not a medium. I don't know anything really, but in my opinion, it does sound like it's your mom. It sounds like she doesn't know she's dead and she somehow is attached to you. And it does sound like she needs help to get crossed over. And I know that you need that too. I don't know much about that personally and what to do. I'd be doing the same things you were doing, right? Cleansing, crystals and bells and herbs, using my words. I wouldn't know where else to turn either. But I know that there has to be someone. There has to be someone in the comments somewhere on all 4 of the platforms that this will be shared on. Has to be someone that knows. Maybe has some help, maybe has some advice, maybe has some things that you can try, or maybe they can help you. This whole thing is so crazy, and that dream is so crazy, and it makes a lot of sense because if she's attached to you in some way, she's always in the back of your dreams, right? And she's like stuck there because she's stuck. I really hope someone can help you with this. I will always love you, says a ghost. Hi, Auntie Matrix. Hi. Can I call you Sister Matrix? I feel we are akin. Sure, girl. Anywho, I have tried to send you this story and multiple others for the same reason, and it always messes up. Maybe it's me, but who knows? My whole life has been a big jumble of what's considered paranormal. I have so many stories. I could make a series about them. Some about shadow people, babies getting scratched, just 46 years of paranormal. I will stop blabbing and get to the story. You should make a series. Do it. I just want to get this out of the way first. I have always been terrified of the dark until age 33. That's a whole other story. This incident took place many years ago when I only had one child at the time and was with my ex. We lived above an auto detailing shop. The building was old and made out of brick. I suspected the place was haunted because sound would come out of the speakers like someone was switching stations or trying to tune into a station, yet the stereo power was not on. To ease any fear, I just told myself that it's what happens with stereos when the power is not on. Needless to say that it's never happened before any other home or since I moved out of that place. So there was one night when my ex was out and about and I was home alone with our daughter. I would always keep the light above the stove on because I was terrified of the dark. Well, this night I was too tired to get up and turn it on, and I just thought, oh hell, he'll be home soon and it'll be all good. The next thing I knew, I had woken up laying facing the wall and could feel him down at the end of the bed towards my side of the bed. After a few seconds, I decided to ask why he wasn't getting into the bed, and as I slowly turned over to ask what the heck he was doing, a force came down onto/into me. Like an invisible pressure. I couldn't move or breathe, or maybe I was too terrified to breathe, but definitely couldn't move. And a man's voice whispered in my left ear, "I will always love you." And it was no Whitney singing it. What? After a moment, I could feel the force slowly lifting out/off me. At first, I thought maybe it was my ex. Maybe he had died and he was telling me one last time before he left that he would always love me. Remember, I had been asleep, so all the quick, crazy things running through my brain trying to make sense of what had just happened. But I don't know why I thought that it was my ex, because it definitely was not his voice. And I could even feel the breath and whisper in my left ear. Creepy? Yeah. Confusing? Yeah. All of it was insane. So because the light over the stove was not on, I knew he was not home and tried calling his cell phone and he did not answer. About 15 minutes later, he showed up. It was about 2 a.m. and I was freaking out and I told him what happened and he just blew it off that I must have been dreaming. I had told my friend about this experience and she had actually lived in the same apartment that I had lived in, and she said that the same thing would happen with their stereo also. That when it was off, radio sound and music would come through the speakers. It never just played. Would sound like someone was trying to tune into Tokyo or something. I didn't even tell her about my experience with the stereo yet. Oh my God, you weren't? Just the whisper. So who, what, why, what the fuck? I have no answers to my questions. My mom believes it was my dad who had died 3 months before I was born, but I don't know. I have always had dreams my whole life of someone I love deeply and loves me back walking away, and I am devastated. I am so heartbroken and devastated when I wake up. So who? I would really like to know if I have some long-lost twin flame that thought it would be hilarious to let me know I was loved in the middle of the night. Maybe if there are any psychics out there, tap into this and help a woman out. That's it for today. I will be sending more. Like I said, it has been a lifelong experience. I once saw a gigantic blue round orb fly over my house. Tell me about the orb! Until the next one, love you all, and Auntie especially. I love you too. Oh my God, that's so crazy. Oh my God, that's so creepy to have someone whisper in your ear in the middle of the night, in the dark, where you could like feel the breath. Nope, 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 nope. No, thank you. I have no idea. I have no idea who it was. You keep having dreams about someone that you love deeply and they love you back, but they walk away. But who is that person? Have you ever seen their face in the dreams? There's definitely a spirit in that house. You weren't the only person to experience the radio thing. I don't know, man. UFO Experience. Hi, Auntie May. Hi. When I was about 12 years old, my uncle bought some land outside of our then little town in Oregon. He and my aunt built a beautiful home on the edge of a cliff with a river below in the high desert of Central Oregon. They also built a barn and a corral and bought horses. My mom and my younger sister and I frequently visited as we enjoyed riding the horses and hanging out with the family. We'd go out on a weekend day and leave in the evening. We have many fond memories of being there. One day, my mom and I were leaving the ranch just before dusk. The sun was about 10 minutes from setting. The dirt road out of this land was winding and long through many, many juniper trees. We were in my mom's little white Datsun truck. The make of the truck tells you how long ago this was, the late 1970s. As you come out of the juniper trees, there is still about a mile of dirt road to a paved road that leads to a highway that takes you into town. As we drove out of the juniper trees, we could see that the sun was about to set and it was still pretty light out. From where we were, you could see all the way to the Cascade Mountain Range and the skies were clear. All of a sudden, right in front of us in the sky, not directly over the truck, was a huge UFO about the size of a football field. What? That's like Independence Day huge. It did not zoom in from anywhere, it just appeared. It was a dark, matte metal gray. It was round and stationary, about 20 to 30 yards in the sky in front of us. We could only see the underside. It wasn't smooth. It had all kinds of things on the underside, like how the spaceship from Star Wars looks. Star Wars had not come out yet, so at the time we had no point of reference for how it looked. I flung myself on the floorboard in front of me and yelled at my mom to look at the time and to drive faster. I have no idea why I told her to look at the time. I was going to ask. That's interesting. We were both scared to death. Our family has never really paid attention to or discussed anything UFO related, but we knew what UFOs were, and this was a UFO, and it was scary. Probably because it was so close and so unknown to us. And so huge, man. And so huge. My mom kept driving faster and faster on the dirt road. Somehow we thought getting off the dirt road into the paved road would help. As we drove, it stayed right with us, hovering just above and in front of our truck. I stayed on the floorboard. We were both so scared and panicked. I remember I kept yelling at my mom to drive faster and faster. The truck had a manual transmission and she was driving and shifting as fast as she could while she stayed on the dirt road. The next thing we remember is driving much more calmly on the highway and almost into town, an 8-mile drive, and it was dark. We never calculated the time from when we saw the UFO to the time we were back on the highway. It didn't seem to matter to us anymore. We were both in a kind of trance-like state. But I snapped out of it when I saw a huge light above our truck on my side, the passenger side. I started telling my mom about the light, and then she snapped out of it too. We started remembering what happened. The light was further away from our truck than the UFO had been earlier, but we knew it was the same thing. I watched it while my mom was driving. It stayed near our truck until we got to the lights of the small town. Then it zoomed off to the mountain range and followed us along the mountain range all the way back into town. Once we got into town, it completely disappeared. Once back into town, we realized that we'd lost quite a bit of time. It only takes 14 minutes to get from the paved road out by my uncle's ranch to our town. It should have been just past dusk when we got to town, not completely dark nighttime like it was. After that, we had a lifetime of paranormal experiences. I'll send those in too. Yes! When my mom was still alive, we'd every once in a while chat about our experience. We lost time, and I've always wanted to be regressed hypnotically so that I could know what really happened. As a side note, I do have a weird small bump behind my right ear. When I push on it, it flattens out. I'm not a dermatologist, but I've been registered nurse for 40 years, so I know it's not a cyst or anything. So I believe that it's an implant. Since then, I have always been drawn to UFO stories, and I'm always looking up at the sky. I'll send in some of our paranormal encounters too, like the spirits I've seen roaming around my room at night. If anyone knows of any regression specialists in the Phoenix, Arizona area, please let me know. I can't seem to find one. Thank you for providing this platform. Thank you for sharing your story. Oh my God. Okay, we've heard so many UFO sighting stories. So many. Never have I heard one where the UFO was the size of a football field. That is terrifying to me. That is literally, it's scary enough. I don't even think it's scary, honestly, to see a UFO. I think it'd be really cool to see a UFO. But to see one that was that giant would be terrifying to me. I don't know why. The big is scary. You definitely got abducted. 100% you got abducted. You had this huge fucking thing following you. All of a sudden, you were driving calmly on a different road. Definitely were abducted. 100%. You need to get hypnotized. We need to know what happened. I wonder if you do get hypnotized, will you be able to remember your experience on the ship? Because I know that most people don't remember their experiences on the ships when they get abducted. And I don't know if that's because the aliens are erasing your memory or if you are just, it is so traumatic that you block it out. And oh my God, do you have an implant? Have you ever gotten it looked at? Have you gone to a dermatologist and asked them to slice it open and see if there's anything? I guess it would be so small, right? That you wouldn't be able to see it if you slice it open. I don't know. What do you think about alien implants? Are they tracking you? Have you seen them since? Have you seen any UFO since? Have you had any other lost time experiences since? And you're not the first person to say, after experiencing an abduction, loss of time, alien experience thing, that more paranormal stuff has happened to them. They're more open to the things now. This is so crazy. That concludes our creepy compilation for today. If you have a story that you want to share, you can send it to auntiematrix@gmail.com. You can find my merch, my Discord, and all of my other links at tessicavision.com. We also hang out and read stories live here on YouTube and on TikTok, so make sure you look out for that. And remember, we believe you. If you want to keep it going here, you can check out this video or this playlist.